Hey, it's a real American Brian and Johnny, and we're back to talk about rock and roll from the classified line. Hang around to hear our thoughts on this new awesome figure and all of his cool accessories.
Yo, Joe, talking comics. Here's your host. It's a real American Brian.
Johnny, welcome back. We're here to talk about rock and roll, but later in the video, we're going to be discussing some breaking news of a new figure that was just announced. So I want everyone to stick around to the end of the video when we talk about that.
Ooh, is it another musical genre codename figure?
Maybe. We won't know until the end of the video.
I cannot wait for hip hop to come out. I've been waiting for hip hop.
But before we get there, we're going to discuss the new classified series rock and roll figure.
Love it. Look at this guy. Oh, sorry for a spoiler. You're going to do your unboxing. I just had to. I'm so excited. I was a big fan, so I got a little excited to show that. But let's go through the bio.
All right, so I busted out my order of battle to see rock and roll, the machine gunner, Greg McConnell. Did you remember that real name?
Greg McConnell. No, not really.
No, not really a memorable name. He's from Malibu, California, as you would expect. Our surfer, rock and roll, heavy machine gunner. Yeah, I don't know. Did you have rock and roll as a kid, or have any memories of it?
So, a really good rock and roll memory, actually. My first three and three quarters. So was that the size? So just to kind of set the stage, I had older brothers and my dad all knew of the original tall 12 GI Joes. So then in the early to mid 80s, I started you're like, oh, I'm getting to GI Joes, and I remember getting Rock and Roll and Breaker were my first two figures. And I got them on the same day. I remember opening them up literally in the backseat of the car, playing with them in the car. And so Rock and Roll has a ton of memories for me as literally the first figure I ever owned. And I thought it was really cool. One, the idea of having a machine gunner. And I'm thinking, you know what, when I grow up, I want to get machine guns. And I still don't have a machine gun. It kind of sucks. I'm 45 and I have no machine gun. But my first figure, realizing that this guy's badass. I want a cool blonde beard. I actually had blonde hair when I was a kid. So I'm like, one day I'm going to have blonde hair and a beard. Got the beard, but now I'm bald and no blonde. But knowing how cool a figure it was. And I also knew that as my first foray into the G.I. Joe toy world as a kid, like, this is going to be awesome. Like, I mean, I know this is a cool thing. My friends are talking about G.I. Joe, and now I got Rock and Roll. He's my first guy. Let's go and kick some butt.
Yeah, so Rock and Roll is part of the originals, right, from '82. So
yeah, he was in the original 13, right? 12.
12. Right?
Yeah.
12, 13. I'm not sure. Maybe it is 13.
Yeah.
I can't remember offhand, which is horrible of me and takes any credit that I have with this channel.
No, never forget, by the way, your channel is a comic first channel.
That is true.
Not a toy first channel.
So Rock and Roll being of those first ones, by the time I started getting into G.I. Joe, he wasn't on the shelves anymore. So I missed out on Rock and Roll. I never had him as a kid.
Did they ever do a re-release for your time frame or no?
I'm sure they did. But yeah, I never had that. If they
okay,
did.
Yeah, it was he was an old one, and I mean, and I'm going by memory here, but a lot of those original figures, they were just all inch, all green. They had a couple accessories that made them unique, but it wasn't until a year or two later that they each started to have real identities and real looks to them. So Rock and Roll still had that. If we all look the same, I'm the cool looking one. You know what I mean?
Yeah. For sure. And it was his beard that set him apart most, right?
Yeah, beard and ammo, I think, is those memorable traits.
So when they announced this, I have to imagine that we both had the same reaction, that it immediately went on our wish list and we pre-ordered it right away.
This whole line of this group, I mean, it's unbelievably great. I don't think there's ever going to be a release they have that equals like the 6 or whatever that came out all together in this group, because they're almost all must buys for me. This is one of them.
Yeah, it was definitely an all-star wave. I mean, they really knocked it out of the park with those. There weren't very many duds, if any, in that. cool group. But rock and roll comes with a ton of accessories. At least I think it's a ton. A lot of different things. He has different hands, which is rare for the classified line.
I mean, again, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not an expert, but I think it's a first.
Um, Possibly. I want to say some of the Snake Eyes movie figures had different hands.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
And maybe trying to think who else. Maybe some of the deluxe figures. So like Mindbender and Serpentor might, but
oh,
but
Sarge had different hands.
Sarge Shoe, yeah, I consider him kind of a deluxe because he was a more. But of a regular dudes, that's awesome. And I don't know if it's feedback or because people are that's one definitely shining moment of like the Valaverse is having like essentially 4 of each hand. You got trigger finger, kung fu grip type, fist, and then open hand for holding guns. You think about it, and just a simple accessory of a hand instead of a useless other accessory is going to add so much more. Plus, you can build up your bits box. So when you do conversions and other things, now I can use a hand for something else.
Yeah, I think of all the accessories that rock and roll specifically comes with. I mean, they're all super cool and useful for anybody, any other Joe that's going to be dressed in green. Like any of the standard troopers, like all this stuff is useful. You can give his gun to somebody else because it has the separate ammo chains. And
well, you could use them not helmeted and give the helmet to somebody else.
Yeah, but let's so we were both excited about him. Let's open them up. You ready for the magic again?
It's gonna take forever. Whoa. Wow, you're very quick, Brian. I'm sure you've heard that one before.
So we'll bust him out of his cool coffin with the awesome artwork there.
That's a really cool artwork on that one for sure.
Yes.
Unfortunately, there's a bunch of holes in it, but
Yeah. So I think the hand was something that jumped out to everybody. That saw it right away.
Got the kind of rock and roll metal horns there, and really cool. Which the thought is right off the bat, you can pose him with it. Or because it is a heavy machine gun, it's kind of might be a two-hander, so that hand might be available for other figures.
Yeah, quite possibly. But the outside of the hand, I think the first thing that jumped out, or that I saw people pointing out, was all the tattoos. And they're pretty highly detailed tattoos. I was very impressed. I think the hand tattoos may be a little bit goofy, but still works for a character like rock and roll.
Yeah. I think it looks good. I mean, that's the tattoos are nice. It also offsets the kind of green. I know some people they wanted all green, I think. But I think it looks fine.
No, I like it. I guess the reason you would want all green is to be more true to the original, but I don't think you need to be that true. It's okay to, like, you can tell this is based on rock and roll.
Right.
Like, it doesn't have to be. All right. So I like the way you have I just have the shorter chain thing coming out of the ammo box.
So here's mine in the window here. So it's I just thought it was that way, using that hand, and again, it's still the trigger finger there, but it's fine, whatever. It holds the ammo nicely.
Yeah, but so many options on this figure. I really like it a lot. And you don't have the helmet on yours? I did.
I just took it off. I'm going to keep it on.
But I like even like him riding Hang 10 on his helmet is pretty cool. Yeah. Just like so many details on the helmet itself. Like, I'm very impressed with this figure. Like,
I'm very glad that the ammo on his chest is, if you wanted to remove it, you could. It's not like glue. You're not like part of the mold or anything.
Yeah, I mean, to remove it, I think you would have to cut it, right?
You might be able to slide an arm through, but I mean, I'm not going to. But it's cool that it's movable. I tell you, quick side note, and let me ask you your opinion, Brian. How into backpacks or carrying that there are no backpacks, does that mean anything to you? Because I don't care about backpacks. As a kid, I thought it was cool, but now they always fall out. The hole gets messed up, and then it sometimes offsets the weight. And I'm thinking, if you can save that hunk of plastic for more accessories, I don't need backpacks.
Yeah, I almost completely agree with you. As a kid, I loved the backpacks, and it was a big deal to have all the backpacks on them. But now I don't really care for them as much, unless it's a specific character where the backpack is important for some reason.
Sure.
Um,
Zartan with a mask in there,
the
Firefly
bats.
with some tools in there maybe or something. But it's yeah, and even I mean there's some I forgot what offhand what I have, but I have some holding their backpack. Like I might have Dusty holding his, I might have Bazooka holding like so it's like almost even sometimes when there is a backpack, I treat it like a holding accessory too, because it gives something to put in the other hand.
Yeah. The one accessory on Rock and Roll that I think is cool, I don't have a problem with it, but I probably won't have it on my Rock and Roll when I display them, is the radio.
It's funny. I already gave my radio to somebody else.
Did you give it to Dusty?
I did not. Let me actually. I forgot. Let me go take a look. I think it is. Oh, here we go.
But my thoughts on the radio, like unless you're going to have it in somebody's hand, maybe I'll give it to Cover Girl so she could be like calling in something.
I found it. Flint's got the radio because he's my leader.
Okay. Yeah, but if you're going to have it in somebody's hand, I think it's pretty cool. But to have it on the belt is just it takes up a little bit too much space with the antenna and.
It shouldn't actually. Yeah, I would agree. And if there's a little nub on there, then I make it's not a big deal. It's in the background. I guess I could cut it off, but I'm just going to leave it. It belongs in someone's hand. And like I mentioned this on the shipwreck video. If you anything you can put in the other hand besides another gun is a good thing. I don't think figures need to have two guns, one in each hand. So whether you're trying to tip a cap or grab something or grab a grenade, if you can grab another accessory, or in this case, hold the ammo, or in some, hold the gun, I like all that stuff. So I think the radio is definitely an accessory for somebody else to have.
Yeah, but I'm very happy with Rock and Roll. I think he's awesome.
Oh, not a complaint by any means. I'm happy that it comes with stuff.
No, yeah.
Looks like little on his belt, more stuff on his belt than others.
Yeah, he's definitely carrying a lot of stuff with him. And you mentioned the bullets not being molded on. None of the holsters are either. They're all actual separate pieces.
Yeah,
wrapped around his legs, which is nice. I'm glad they're going that route.
Yeah, I may even set him up, with this, kind of like kneeling or something too. It's a lot of cool options you can do with the gun. You can make him just carrying the gun as well, just not an active kind of shooting pose. So I think it's another really good one. If we were giving out flag points or rating or something, it's another one of those. I don't know if I'm going to say top 5 like I did Shipwreck, but it's pretty darn close.
Yeah, it's definitely. I mean, and again, like this line seems like it just keeps getting better. I don't know. I think it's going to slow down a little bit after this because this wave was just so good. But this one, I think, is definitely I would definitely consider it for my top 5. I don't know if it would make the top 5, but
yeah, I would consider it too. Maybe when at end of the year we'll do a tournament.
Yeah. That would be pretty cool, like an actual bracket, like versus and see who the best is.
That'd be kind of fun, yeah. But I think Rock and Roll, a lot of cool stuff on them, and I really like extra accessories because you could mix and match. I know most people keep the accessories that come with it. I get all that because for many reasons. I don't really care. I kind of when I see something that fits with somebody else, and I see a figure that comes with a lot and a figure that didn't come with a lot. I share the wealth a little bit, unless there's something that really defines a character, then you keep with them. But he comes with a lot of cool stuff, and he is definitely a lot of character with everything, with the tats and the look and all that.
Yeah. So one of the things, like I was really excited about the hand throwing up the horns, and that hand is not on my Rock and Roll because I have other plans for it. I'm going to use it somewhere else, and even having that where I'm going to use it on a different figure. Without it, this Rock and Roll figure is still in my, in that argument for my top 5 because it's so cool. But definitely one of the reasons I bought it was because of that sweet ass hand.
Yeah, love it, awesome. And I believe you teased something else, right? What was that?
I did. So they've been making a lot of announcements lately, and I wanted to get your thoughts on a very special one. I think it's very special. Shooter.
Yeah, so right off the bat, it doesn't really resonate with me. Uh, Shooter was an original character, but killed off, right?
Yes and yes, I guess. So Shooter was a little joke in the first issue of the GI Joe comic.
A male character.
Well, it looked male. It was really hard to tell. It's
Oh,
just like one single panel, and like when they're going through who all the Joes are, like doing the introductions, they're looking at a
screens,
computer
right? Yeah.
screen. Yeah, and like off to the bottom corner, you can see one named Shooter, and it was a joke for Jim Shooter, the
Yeah.
um, editor. And I thought I had read somewhere in the past where Larry wasn't really happy that that joke got squeezed in, but then I couldn't find it, so maybe I made that up. I don't know. But I know the GI Joe fans would never let go of the fact that, hey, who's Shooter? Who's the Shooter? And it was never introduced, never introduced. And then finally, I don't know how many years later, in the Devil's Due comics, Larry wrote uh, like was it Origins or I don't know. He did like a early GI Joe story and actually introduced Shooter as a character, and it was a female character,
Yeah.
and she went on her first mission as a Joe, and spoiler, she died.
Hmm.
So it was kind of Larry, like, yes, here's Shooter finally, and she's gone. That's why she didn't appear in any other stories.
It's enough to get a figure, I guess. Was there another figure like back then, or is this kind of like let's add another female to the line? Here's one that some fans are asking for.
I know there was never a Shooter in the original three quarter line. I don't know if there was like something after that, like a con or a 20th anniversary, maybe. I'm not sure. But when this one was announced initially, I don't really care for Shooter. I don't know. I think the whole people that are crazy about Shooter, it was a dumb joke, and it should have never gone past that. It should have just been forgotten. But in my opinion,
So,
but then,
are you going to get this or not?
no.
Okay.
Looking at the figure, I think the coolest things with the figure, like that gun, is pretty cool,
Yeah.
and her shoes, like her feet, are different enough, and I thought that was kind of neat. But those are the only things that stand out. Like this is a pass for me. Like I have enough now in the line that I can choose to be picky, and I'm not going to get Shooter.
Yeah, for me, I mean, they're just I have to have immediate name and nostalgia recognition for me for any of these. So I won't get it. I think it's cool that it exists. The gun is badass. It looks like a new type of female body as well. That's different than what we've seen in the past. And who knows, that might lead into when they do maybe a new Scarlet or a Bomb Strike or something. Maybe there's new opportunities to have some more kind of badass looking female bodies for the next time they do it.
Yeah, I mean that's a great point, and they could definitely use that body for the Helix figure that they've already
Yeah,
announced.
could maybe it's already in the works. Who knows?
Quite possibly, yeah. This is a Night Force figure, so it's going to be unfortunately one of the Walmart exclusives that are sometimes a pain to track down.
Walmart exclusives are not available through Pulse, or are they?
I think a limited quantity are, but it's just a pain. Like any of the exclusives, is just that extra headache of trying to find them.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. It's and maybe you agree with me on this one, Brian, but I don't really get too irritated about exclusives because the whole classified line has felt exclusive. Never been I'm going to go to any store, Target, Walmart, even Amazon, whatever. I'm not going to see these figures there. You see a couple of the peg warmer types, but you don't see a line at all times.
I agree with that. I think the thing that sucks is that it creates frustration. Like if you really wanted a figure and it sells out right away because they were letting scalpers buy 30 of them, like that sucks. Like I just wanted one to open up, and
that was for me. Cobra Eel was a big one. Just recently, came out. I was I'm at work. I'm in a meeting, and I couldn't go on my phone. And I get out of the meeting. I go to my phone, and they were sold out a half hour later after the 12 o'clock. And I was pissed off. It's like, this sucks. I mean, it's just, I know it's my problem, but it's very frustrating at times.
that was an Amazon, right?
Amazon and Pulse.
Okay, so the idea, I remember that now. So Pulse was limiting them to one per person, but Amazon wasn't.
You're right. Yeah. Well, and
So
they're already on eBay minutes later, not
mhm,
in anyone's hand for $80.
yeah,
So it's like, whatever. It's frustrating. I'm going to get one eventually. I'd love to
right.
get one by the normal means and not have to pay more. But, you know, it is what it is. When the original Vipers came out, those were hard to get. When I think I paid a little more at my specialty toy store in my town at Jay's. It was like 35 each. But I like Beachhead. I eventually got a Beachhead that was normal price. So I'll keep my eye out to get it normal, but something like this, though, it's going to be the same thing, I think, with Shooter.
Yeah, and I think you'll definitely get a Cobra Eel. I know the exclusives and stuff in the past for Amazon, like months later, there's like, oh, look, here's another wave. Do you want to pre-order it or whatever? And they open
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
It's just frustrating. Like that frustration doesn't need to be there. Like just
Yeah.
let the people that want it buy it.
Yeah. And also, I mean, and I'm not trying, I paid $50 for Pulse. I just renewed again. I mean, there's almost a level of if I'm paying to be a member in something, why don't I just have access to it? Why do I have to like be on my phone? And, you know what I mean? Like it's almost I'm paying for the right to purchase something. That's already kind of weird. It's like,
Mhm.
I'm paying money for the right to buy something. Everyone else can buy something too. So what am I actually getting? Yes, there's the shipping, but there almost should be like if you don't have a membership, you better be one of the first, whatever. But if you do, it's kind of like, yeah, when you get to it, you get to it. That should almost be a thing because I thought you're a club member. You're joining a club, right?
Yeah, it's very strange. I just wish I don't know. I don't know how much of a priority it is for them to keep people happy. It should be a high priority, right?
Right.
We keep buying these, but I don't know how much it is more
I
than
don't. Yeah, and good point. I think it's almost you know, there's so much cool stuff with classified that I think it's impossible to always make 100% of people happy at all times. Just
Mhm.
anyway. And case in point, look at all the HasLabs that sell out and hit the goal, stretch goals, the hiss and dragonflies. So I mean, it's not an issue. It's not going to hurt them. It's just frustrating.
Mhm.
But I'm going to press on and move on, and I will get on with my life and figure.
Yeah, and you will get an eel eventually, and you won't have to pay
I'm
horrible prices for it.
I was a water guy, and eels were a huge part of my youth. So, although I only had one, because to me it was like it wasn't like Cobra Eels. It was just you are the Cobra Eel. I just had
Yeah.
one, and he would battle Torpedo. It was a one-on-one matchup at all times. So,
Yeah.
anyway,
Well, I think we've talked enough about Shooter and rock and roll. Thank you for joining me again, and I thank everyone that's made it this far. If you've made it this far, like the video, subscribe, do all that stuff you're supposed to do. And we're going to be coming back very soon, possibly tomorrow. I don't know. Very soon, though, to talk about another classified figure that was just released.
rock and roll.
That was a real American Brian. And now you know, because knowing is half the Brian.